Well, hey, yeah, running a bit late. Might have two on the same day. This is the 29th of March 2013 at 12:08 in the morning AM. Yeah, I just had a nephew turn up unexpectedly, as you do with most family members. If someone turns up, you invite them in. What do? They fall asleep at the lounge. Now, what he's going to do doing it is going back in time. He's going back to a place called Braidwood in New South Wales, and they're having a back to nature. Um, Back in the old sword days, when they used to do warriors with the real swords and the fighting and the stabbing, and because he raped my daughter, so I get to cut off his head. Sound like a good succession of what could happen back in those days. But we were talking about his girlfriend is actually her dad used to work with a slaughter yard. Now we had an Irish thing today relating to the horse meat that's getting being put into frozen food and also on into the butchers. And people are starting to think, well, is horse meat really that bad? I mean, how many of those SBS shows you'd watch and someone would actually be having a great big pot of something, and all of a sudden you see what I see coming out of the pot is a bloody horse head. A horse head. Now, we live in the days when my uncle lived on a farm, and in amongst all the thickets and bristles was always the rabbits. In those days they had no poisons or any things that would be introduced to try and reduce the number of rabbits being born, like Calicium virus, and there was another one that introduced with the eyes. Well, in those days, he used to use traps, the old spring traps. You put it out, you spring it in, and hopefully the rabbit will run into it. Those were the days when you'd have rabbit stew. In those days, it was the old well done rabbit. The rabbits that were cooked, but they were as tough as nails to eat. Never tasted as good as the beef. Never tasted as good as the lamb. Never tasted as good as the chicken. But because it cost nothing to trap it, cost nearly nothing to cook it, because they cooked it in a wood-fired stove. So rabbit, if we ever visited, the high almighty meal that would be served to us was rabbit stew. But you'd still get the peas and the beans and the potatoes and the mashed potatoes and whatever else to go with it, like a normal country living as they did in those days. In those days, if you wanted to have lamb, they would cut the throat of the lamb and hang it up and get it bled, ready to go, be cut up and ready for your steaks, lamb steaks, and whatever else they're going to have for tea that night. That's how it was in those days. Now, the one that they're going to gives them points for being authentic. I said to James, well, if you're going to take Eve onto this, is she going to be the witch, the fighter? I didn't say the slut, or the bitch, or the whore. It's really funny because I was talking about that to her tonight. Because we're in Melbourne, a wall collapsed and killed 2 students, and I would have to assume the students would possibly come from RMIT. Now, the RMIT that I went to, right behind it, was the red light district. So you had not only did you have a lesson on aircraft instruments or aircraft engineering, you also had a education on sex. Because right next to the RIT was the windows of where the guys would be paying the girls for the sex. That was the days when we had the underbelly. The days where the money was slid under the table. The days when the girls were girls and women were women, and they did what they had to do to get by. They've always been there. It's never been as open as it is now. I mean, we'll talk more about it today later on. But my guest today is Bobby Wright. Now, Bobby Wright now is a photo of him here. I know because the song I'm playing it from is the same album someone downloaded it onto YouTube from. So there shouldn't be a copyright because the guy has already done it. So here's Bobby Wright and Seasons in the Sun. Here we go.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend. We've known each other since we were 9 or 10. Together we've climbed your trees, learned of love and ABCs, skinned our hearts and skinned our knees. Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die when all the birds are singing in the sky. Now that the spring is in the air, pretty girls are everywhere. Think of me and I'll be there. We have stories, we have fun, we have seasons in the sun. But the rails that we climb, the seasons out of love. Goodbye, Dad, please pray for me. I was the black sheep of the family. You tried to teach me right from wrong. Too much wine and too much song. Wonder how I got along. Goodbye, Dad, it's hard to die when all the birds are singing in the sky. Now that the spring is in the air, little children everywhere. We have joy, we have fun, we have seasons in the sun. But the wine and the song, like the seasons never long. Goodbye, Michelle, my little one. You gave me love and helped me find the sun. And every time that I was down, you would always come around and get my feet back on the ground. Goodbye, Michelle, it's hard to die when all the birds are singing in the sky. Now that the spring is in the air, with the flowers everywhere, I wish that we could join me there. We had joys, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun. And war and rain were just stars on the green. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun. But the stars were just stopping on the lane. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun. But the wine and the song, like the seasons never gone.
Yeah, that was. I don't know if I can pause it. Can I pause it? No, I won't do that. No, I'll tell you about it because Sam and Chrissy just come online again, and they may want to talk to me on Skype. They're in Barcelona. But anyway, that was John Robert Bobby Wright, born 30th of March 1942 in Charleston, West Virginia, is an American country music singer. He is the son of country singers Johnny Wright and Kitty Wells, and the brother of Ruby Wright. Most of the boyhood years were spent in Louisiana. Since his parents were regular performers on the country music television program, Louisiana Hayride, at age 8, Wright appeared with his parents on the show and became part of the recordings 3 years later. The family went back to Nashville in 1958 because the parents became headliners at the Grand Ole Opry. Although Wright was an able guitarist and vocalist, he had little interest in a music career. He became interested in acting when he learned that Peter Torskberry, a television and film director, had a role for a young southern boy who could play the guitar. Wright made the trip to Hollywood to test for Tewksbury. While he did not get the role, he went to California for his screen test, was seen by the producers of McCall's Navy, who cast him in the new television comedy series as Willie Moss, the PT-73 radio operator, a role he played through the entire series. While McHale's Navy was still in production, Wright decided to give music a try, beginning by working with his mother on one of the 1965 albums. Unhappy with the Hollywood scene after McHale's Navy ended, he moved back to Nashville to start a music career. Well, there you go, McHale's Navy. We may have to go on to McHale's Navy and just play the opening to it, but I'm not. Okay, credits. Bobby Wright. Birth name, John Robert Wright. John Wright, March 30, 1942, is born. Age 70. Charleston, West Virginia. Gen Y's country. Occupation, singer. Instruments, vocals. Years active, 1967 to 1979. Labels, Decca, ABC, United Artists, and EMI, just get that in, Johnny Wright and Kitty Wells. Now that was Bobby Wright. This is a paddle pop stick. This is an ice cream stick. And guess what? It turned 60 today. So therefore Streets is celebrating the fact that Streets has been producing the paddle pop for 60 years. Now that's licking it, isn't it? Now, where was I going just then? I know where I was going to go then. Now, I'm going up to here. Now, I can remember the days. Here we go. Aussie mateship. Alright. My joke. An Aussie woman didn't come home one night. When her man asked her the following day where she'd been, she said she spent the night at a girlfriend's house. The bloke was a bit suspicious, so he rang her 10 closest friends. I know, I hate the idea of someone doing this when they're on American Idol or one of those shows where you got to ring up and say, give a vote. But this, I'm imitating someone doing it. So I don't need anyone to ring me, but anyway, the bloke was a bit suspicious. So he rang her 10 closest friends, but none of them had seen her. The following week, the man didn't come home one night. The woman asked him where he'd been. The man said he got a bit drunk at a mate's place and thought it was safer not to drive when drunk. The woman didn't believe him, so he rings his 10 best mates. 8 of them say he spent the night there, and 2 claim he's still there. Well, can we do another blonde joke? Do another blonde joke? Well, we can do them. We've done the man in the field. A blonde finds herself in serious trouble. She has lost her business and she's in dire financial straits. She's desperate, so she decides to ask God for help. She begins to pray. God, please help me. I've lost my business. If I don't get some money, I'm going to lose my house as well. Please let me win the lottery. The lottery night comes and somebody else wins. She again prays, God, please let me win the lottery. I've lost my business, my house. I'm going to lose my car as well. Lottery night comes and she has no luck. Again she prays, my God, why have you forsaken me? I've lost my business, my house, and my car. I don't often ask for help. I've always been a good servant to you. Please let me win the lottery, just this one time, so I can get my life back in order. Suddenly, there's a blinding flash of light as the heavens open. The blonde is overwhelmed by the voice of God himself. Sweetheart, work with me on this. Buy a ticket. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's a bit lame, but, you know, we've got to do that occasionally. Now, we were talking early on. Yes, 2 shows in one day. And Ellen's not here anymore. She didn't even get to go to Geelong. Now, Geelong is where her wife comes from. Now, Geelong is only 40 minutes from Melbourne to where you can go to see it. You come all this way over to Australia to see where she lives, and you couldn't get to her hometown? What is this girl made of? How is she going to explain to her mum, that her wife still unable to show me her hometown because it was 40 minutes away, 50 kilometres. How many thousand kilometres did she travel to get here? And she couldn't get to her hometown? As a matter of fact, Geelong isn't her hometown. Horsham. Google it. Horsham. Horsham, Victoria. That's where she was born. Horsham. That's where she should go. We'll see how long it takes her to get back here. I'll tell you what. We'll do a deal. You come here, and you can have every weekend off, and do whatever you want to do in Australia, and I'll come to America and do your show. I think that would be a good idea. I've got some people saying, well, I might be able to do a good show if I had the guests. A producer. I am the producer. I am the director. I'm all that it takes to do the show. So there's my offer. I did invite you to come out here, but I didn't think you're only going to be here for 9 days. And even as it is, Swiss couldn't have done a real good job on your health. Swiss are the vitamins that are supposed to keep your strength up. Swiss, they're supposed to keep you well. Did not work. So, that's my show. Thanks to Bobby Wright. Thanks to AMI. And those in South Africa. I can go through all the countries I can see that I know who actually get this. So, and don't forget, when you get to the end of it, retweet it or give a thumbs up. Alright, I love yous all, and I'll catch you on later on today. Because it's Friday. I missed out on Titty Thursday. Wait. There. Alright, I've done it. So, that's my 20 minutes worth. Okay, love yous all. Bye.